also the formula of peace we formulated that we have to add freedom of marine navigation, and we have to have some safety guarantees. And now only European system and NATO are the system of values for us, because it's the fighting for values from the system of European right.
Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Center and NGO Euro-Atlantic Course. And I'm your host, Miroslava Yarenkin. It is in Ukraine that the new architecture of world security is being developed. And the foundations of this structure should be based not just on the past coexistence with each other, but on the fact that no country, especially one that possesses nuclear weapons, due to its imperial ambitions, could attack another country with impunity, start a war, and commit blackmail on a global scale. In today's episode, we're going to talk about what to do after the war ends with the victory of Ukraine. And will it be an inclusive security system, or will it unite only those countries that share the same values? If you want to learn more about this subject, please continue watching this video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss our videos in the future. At the G20 summit, in the absence of an aggressor country, actually G19, which took place in Bali in November 2022, President Volodymyr Zelensky presented a peace formula consisting of 10 points. Radiation, nuclear energy and food security, release of all prisoners, withdrawal of Russian troops, prevention of escalation, restoration of justice, compliance with the UN Charter, and fixing the end of the war. In fact, for the first time, Ukraine formulated an official vision of the end of the war. Former ambassador of Ukraine to the USA and chairman of the board of Ukraine Crisis Media Center, Valery Chali, believes that freedom of marine navigation and security guarantees of Black Sea safety is essential in the peace formula as well. Please take a listen.
When we are talking about the formula of peace, and I think that everybody, like Ukrainians, more or less, they are perceiving this formula, and the president of Ukraine also mentioned that in his speech. And like the main issues, or the main issue, is the occupation of all the territory. Now we are talking about colossal change of approaches about the crime has to be deoccupied, and all the partners are mentioning that. And what you mentioned about the Black Sea, if we leave the control of Russia, we don't know the Turkish position that will be there, but from Mr. Erdogan, we saw what kind of position he has. We will see what happens after the second part of the election. So I think that if Erdogan remains, I don't think it will change dramatically, but they made it as though see of their own. Like, when we are talking about the goals of war, by the way, the propagandist Lavrov also mentioned what are the goals in this war. By the way, it is not the same that Mr. Putin is saying. But Putin says, like, but still, we've got the territory. Like, with the happy glow in his eyes, like Azov Sea is ours. And indeed, how can Ukraine develop in this situation? So the logic tells us that we have to do that, at least the entering to Black Sea and safe trade. This is a natural interest of Ukraine. When these moments were mentioned at that time, they seemed, for many people there in the West and in Ukraine, they are really like full of ambitions. They are optimistic because the occupation of all territories with the Crimea. So we can just imagine the powerful work of everyone in order to achieve that. So it is clear that now we have no other way, because we are underlining that both the freedom of navigation is also very important, because we are talking about a grain corridor and the fact that Ukraine has to supply food, but it's not happening in a great extent. But what made me sad, actually, I would like to mention, in Washington, we've been talking a lot about freedom of navigation. We've been talking a lot. We had many discussions. And also, if you remember that before the full-scale invasion, there were either the NATO ships or like other ships. And when the ship was going to the Black Sea and it had powers stronger than the powers of the Russian ships, we were calm. And here, like just before the invasion, they are taking their ships from Ukrainian ports, and the British ship could pass the Crimean, and Russian did nothing but then they were provoking seriously. And actually, the issue of freedom of marine navigation, it came into some kind of agreements, but all the documents says that it should be ensured by international law. And if somebody is acting against the freedom of marine navigation, it requires the UN sanctions. I would like to see how other countries would have act, except for China, because they also don't want anybody to be there between Russia and China. But it sounds in some episodic things, maybe we have to add safety of the Black Sea to this formula, to this Ukrainian formula. It should be the formula of peace for everyone. I just want to, mention that there is a part about the safety guarantees. And I know that you are talking about that, and I think that membership in NATO would be a good solution. Yeah, optimal solution, I would say. We don't know whether it will happen this way or not, but as for this formula, there should be also added that what is mentioned actually in recent months by Ukrainian authorities, and much efforts are made. Somebody is talking about Washington summit next year and Vienna summit this year. We have to think with the new categories, and also the formula of peace. We formulated that we have to add freedom of marine navigation, and we have to have some safety guarantees. And the main thing is the issue about the chance. We are always trying to persuade our partners in this. Here I can agree. The intelligence probably took the opinions of all the Ukrainians. It's very difficult to persuade them that this is a chance. It's not easy, but the fact that these are changes that provides us with opportunities. War is a catastrophe. But in my opinion, that without war with Russia, it was clear that it will happen sooner or later. We couldn't open new chances for Ukraine. And we shouldn't lose them, first of all. And I insist that it's not the issue of years, it's the issue of the nearest time. If right now we won't resolve this issue, I doubt whether somebody will do that instead of us. And it's very important that this passion, this internal unity remains around these goals, because actually it's really hard to explain not only to Europeans but also to Ukrainians why do they have to do this sacrifice. Many people know that, many people understand that, and there is part of people who agrees to live under any conditions in order to have this comes. So I think that we are observing this unexpected situation, not only from the point of view of professionality and the good skills of the armed forces, but also the society. We Europeans, and probably we ourselves, did not expect that the society will be so strong.
Speaking at the working session of the summit of G7 countries, Volodymyr Zelensky announced the first summit of the Formula of Peace in July, on the symbolic date of 500 days of a full-scale war. He also drew attention to the fact that the method of peaceful negotiations does not work with the Russian aggressor. Until February 24, 2022, Ukraine held more than 180 rounds of negotiations with Russia regarding the occupied Donbas and Crimea. But instead of finding a peaceful solution, Russia decided to launch a full-scale war. Vitaly Portnikov, publicist, journalist, and analyst, thinks it's very important to understand and be aware of all of the interests of the sides and intermediaries in order to create the peace formula that will work in the framework of international law. Let's hear.
We need to figure out what the sides of the conflict, the parties of this conflict really want. Those who are involved into the military actions and also intermediaries, real and imaginary. And I have clear ones, and I want us to understand that clearly. The first moment is what is really wanted by Russian Federation, headed by Vladimir Putin, and what Russian people would like to have if they were not just performing the tasks that are set in front of them by the state, because we know that Russians now don't have the subjectivity. And bigger problems can happen as soon as they get it, because political subjectivity of the Russian people, as they are right now, are much more reactive than the subjectivity of the president of Russian Federation. This also has to be recognized. So Russian Federation wants, so to say, come back to Yalta. I mean, they want to mention those summing up of the victory that was achieved on the 9th May of 1945, according to the Soviet version, and it was approved by those who were in anti-Hitler coalition. So this is coming back to the borders of 1991, maybe not Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia that are parts of the European Union. And this is the field of impact of the Soviet Union at the times of the end of the World War II. And this is what was written in the Guarantees of Safety, which was signed by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia before Russia attacked Ukraine. Ukraine is just a small part of their ambitions. It's not of least importance, but not of the highest importance. So if we are talking about Russia from Uzhhorod to Ashgabat, then probably the first part of this, from the point of view of Russia, here they are related only with Europe, but there are also parts where they stick with China. And we are not talking about achieving the aim, but we are talking about the aim that they set in front of themselves, an integration of Moldova or Belarus till 2030. It's about this version, first. Second, what does Ukraine want? Ukraine wants to be an independent country and sovereign country which has the right to make own choices, which exists in its borders that are the borders of the ex-USSR. And for us, at least before the February 24th, both European Union and NATO were not really the issue of values, but it was like the protection from Russia, because they want to not let us make free choices. So now only European system and NATO are the system of values for us, because it's the fighting for values from the system of European right. And NATO still from the point of view of protection, of safety. Of course, but we understand that there is a readiness of society to help. Like, again, everything is happening within the NATO. So this is the second thing. This is what fully contradicts the interests of Russian Federation, and actually it makes it the thing that cannot be achieved in the nearest time. What is wanted by the USA and other countries? They want to come back to international law, so that countries that exist right now on Earth, they respect international law. And roughly speaking, the one that was after 1945, which doesn't allow the opportunity when one country joins the territory of the other country. Because Western world was really calm to unresolved conflicts on the ex-USSR before the annexion campaign started. But we lived with the Karabakh and with different cities, and nobody hurried to resolve these conflicts. Nobody was imposing sanctions, and nobody was saying that for the territorial for the territories of Georgia, Russia should be excluded from the group of 7. So actually, it's not only the big invasion, but also the Crimea became the conscious event. So if they are not saving the international law, then it can end up in the Third World War. So the world wants that Russia, not only Russia, but those states that have similar opinion as Russia, they refuse from joining the territories of other countries to them. Let us also determine the fourth goal, Chinese People's Republic. What do they want? They want to create a multipolar world, or maybe two. I guess, yeah, two-polar world. You are totally correct, Mr. Ambassador, because they will decide, they want to decide what is international law. So actually, Chinese People's Republic is not that interested in renewing the borders of Ukraine and not that much in Russia to make this conflict to their benefit, but they want to prove that without their participation, without their accepting, not a single conflict in the world can be resolved. So like Washington and China, they can sit and say how geopolitical map is going to look like. This is the task of China, which is not the same with the task of the Western countries, because this world is not bipolar or it's not multipolar. This is our huge problem, because actually we understand that with this different aiming of tasks, this conflict, not even Russian-Ukrainian war, because I will repeat myself, this is just a small fragment of the conflict, but so to say, it's the shooting from the pistol, just like it happened in Sarajevo earlier on. So here, like we are not the epicenter, but it's a small Serbia, you know. Everybody feels sorry for it, but it does not determine how the world is going to look like. But it's more like how can we stand for certain principles and values, and Ukraine is just the arena for those values and principles. And later on, corresponding to like whether Ukraine dies or wins, we will have to fight for that on other platforms.
You've been watching the special project of Ukraine Media Center and Euro-Atlantic course dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!